You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
All writers are prone to becoming so attached to our characters and stories that we struggle to see why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing to full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, shaping stories into masterpieces that can stand the test of time. Editing services are provided for all genres and all age categories. Services range from critiques of the short story through to the line edits of the full-length novel and copy editing for those preparing for publication. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites, as well as help with those book blurbs and promotional material. We won't abandon you to the masses. We want to celebrate with you in your successes. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services and prices, visit us at blackwolfeditorial.com.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control over your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank account, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problems now by calling the experts at Tax Mediation Services and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. Tax Mediation Services is accredited by the Better Business Bureau. Call now for a free case review and a price protection guaranteed quote.
Call Tax Mediation Services now at 800-610-9050. That's 800-610-9050. 800-610-9050.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it, there to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
The following message contains a special offer for listeners of this station. Are you a man over 40? Are you constantly looking for the nearest bathroom? Do you wake up multiple times a night to use the bathroom? Right now, Perfect Prostate is sending out free bottles of their groundbreaking new formula to listeners of this station. Perfect Prostate formula was developed by medical doctor Mitchell Fleischer, and its ingredients have been clinically studied to reduce your frequent nighttime bathroom visits and promote healthy urine flow. Right now, preferred customers get their first bottle of Perfect Prostate absolutely free. There's nothing to lose. Perfect Prostate is guaranteed to reduce that constant urge to use the bathroom, especially at night, and promote healthy urine flow. Don't wait. Call now for your free bottle. Just pay shipping and processing. Dial 1-800-675-0251. That's 1-800-675-0251. Supplies are limited. One free bottle per household. Call now. Dial 1-800-675-0251. That's 1-800-675-0251.
Hey folks, I want to introduce you to a friend of mine, Dr. Richard Harden. We are on the same mission, which is waking up America. We just have different paths. So stay tuned for some information on how you can keep up with Richard and all his work.
Visit Richard's website at rahardin.com. That's the World Wide Web at rahardin.com. At his website, you can see a summary of the 6 books he has written, where purchases may be made. He also has a link to 18 videos on YouTube and several blogs about Christian beliefs. If you prefer, visit amazon.com/Kindle and type in Richard Harden to see and purchase his books.
Every day, the men and women of the United States Marine Corps stand ready to defend the American way of life. The few, the proud, the Marines.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it, there to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the Internet, we're coming to you live from the CCRS studios, WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard. Businessman there, drink my wine. You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the Conservative Commandos radio show. I'm Anna Little, co-hosting today with Sharon Angle, and we are broadcasting to you live from our flagship station, WNJC 1360 in Philadelphia, and around the world on the Internet with our partners, Patriots, American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, and AM FM 24/7. Remember, you can also listen to us on our website, CCRS Network and CCRShow.com, or at 8 a.m. on Leading Edge Radio Network, and at 11 p.m. on HighPlainsTalkRadio.com. And, of course, there's that telephone number. You can listen anytime from any phone at 832-999-1199. As our producer, Rick Trader, would say, we are everywhere. Conservative Commandos radio show is everywhere. And Sharon Angle, welcome to the show today.
Thank you, Anna Little. It's always great to be on with the one and only Anna Little on Fabulous Fridays. And we had such a great time at CPAC last week. It couldn't get any better. And I heard that the show really couldn't get any better either, that people really liked the spontaneity of it and just how we went from one interview to the next of all those guys that were there. And we had some great, great guests.
We did. It seemed like at certain times we had to do recorded interviews because we even had 2 or 3 people in the same time slot. And I just think that that's the excitement of CPAC, having so many interesting people to talk to and certainly wanting to get all of their messages out.
Well, it is for me. That's the excitement for me. You know, I'm not much on canned speeches. I just have to say that, having been one of those guys that gives the same speech over and over again and has all the words sanitized, and you know you're not going to say anything that's going to make you crazy. I like speeches, but I would rather interview the person and really look them eye to eye and ask, maybe not all hardball questions, but some softball questions. I know some of the guys that we interviewed said, "Oh, that was a softball question," and we're not there to do the gotcha, but we surely are there to, really talk about some truths and get a feel for who the person really is personally, not just what their agenda is. So, I really like the interviews, and I don't mind missing any of the CPAC agenda, I guess, as long as I get to interview them when they come off the stage, and we get to talk about the things that we think are relevant to the heartland of America. And I think we do have the finger on the pulse of that here at Conservative Commando's radio show. Certainly, we know what it's all about when it comes to Obamacare. You and I got a couple of congressmen and said, "You're making us nervous, Congressman, talking about replace and repair. We just want repeal."
Well, yes, and I agree with that. I think it's very important to remind our representatives that we, the people, really weren't screaming for health insurance when Obamacare came along. That was certainly a leftist, liberal, socialist agenda, and it was something that was implemented ahead of other promises that the liberals had made, say, for example, to immigrants, because it was a very effective tool towards subjecting we, the people, to government control, which was the end result. And so we do want to reverse that, and that is primary and the most important. The solution for what to do afterward, to me, can be a separate issue, because quite frankly, each state may have a solution they want to implement at the state level, knowing now that there's no federal mandate anymore. It may also be true that the federal government might want to declare that there is no impediment to shopping across state lines, and perhaps go no further with regard to it. I certainly don't think we need to mandate people to have insurance at all, but I think most people will see the benefit of having some kind of insurance plan. And we have a sponsor here at Conservative Commando's radio show, which provides a solution that's non-traditional, but that many people have chosen because it takes the middleman out, and it keeps your convictions with regard to faith, and that's Liberty Healthcare. So we certainly don't need a federal mandate, I think, of any sort. And I would love to have the opportunity to walk into a storefront like I do to purchase car insurance. I'd like to walk into a storefront and purchase my health insurance policy the same way I do my life insurance policy or my mortgage insurance policy. Or, I don't see any reason why there has to be this federal government dictate with regard to it.
You're absolutely right, Anna. And, we have done it with other areas of insurance. And I think there's 1,301 insurance companies out there offering health insurance. But in my state, we're only allowed to pick from 5. And it's the same in California. And so it really is limiting, not only as far as the availability of being able to shop and find the very best for your needs, but it also is limiting in where, not only where you can shop, but the price that you get on that shopping. And I think the other thing that you bring up such a good point about being able to go across state lines to look at different things. The states, actually, their legislators, whenever they're in session, Mark Twain actually said this. He said, whenever the legislature's in session, the people suffer. And it's true, because they're always looking to make a law about something that will affect you and me. And a lot of that sometimes has to do with health insurance. They're always putting mandates that we get coverage for certain things. Like in our state of Nevada, we have a mandated coverage for Viagra. Well, I don't need that, and it's just kind of like, why am I paying for that? And again, we have a mandated coverage for maternity, and these are state things. So the problem is not at the federal level where these mandates are, although Obamacare just put a few more on, and that's why we need to have them repeal the ones they put on. But you really need to talk to your state legislator and say, hey, take these mandates off, because you only give me 5 companies to buy from, but I got to cover 23 things before I ever get to the thing that I want to cover. And that's my own personal health for my own personal reasons. And so those are the things that we're looking at staring us in the face every time we go to buy health insurance, and that going across state lines would certainly open that up. I'm not sure how they would still deal with the state mandates on insurance, but I know that many people would be able to get a coverage that doesn't have those state mandates. And when you talk about our partners, our new partners, they really don't have those mandates on them. It's not an insurance, but it is a coverage, and it's kind of interesting how you share the burden with fellow believers. And we actually had a great interview with the founder of that company, or the CEO, perhaps I should say that. And he really was very informative about how it works. So I hope we'll be playing that interview over and over so that people can really understand there is a choice out there, even if your legislature is recalcitrant about taking off the mandates, and even if the federal government won't give us across state lines, we do have an option.
Yeah, and I think that less government involvement is always less expensive. It's less intrusive, it's less tyrannical, but it's also less expensive.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. I couldn't have said it better. You know, the government always gets in there and fouls things up, and we end up bearing the burden for it. And you know, that's why people laugh when they hear what Mark Twain said, because it's truth. You know, we meet biennial here in Nevada. That means every 2 years, not every year. And yet we still cringe at the end of a session because we know we've probably got 800 new laws that we're going to have to deal with. And, of course, ignorance of the law is no excuse. So if you're not keeping up, you may just be in violation.
Yeah, and that's expensive.
Yeah.
So with that, I'm going to take us to a break, and hopefully we'll have cheerier stuff on the other side, because I just don't want to pay for all these regulations. So, listeners, this is Anna Little co-hosting today with Sharon Angle, and we are both coming to you live from the Conservative Commandos Radio Network studios. WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia, and around the world on the internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, and AM/FM 24/7. Those are all .com. We will be right back with you after this break.
I'm crazy. I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but I...
The Conservative Commandos radio show is the commander of the Conservative Commandos radio network. We've established a front line of conservative leaders and ironclad patriots to revive the promise of America.
There must be some kind of way out of here.
We patriots have succeeded in securing the next 4 years of American prosperity, sovereignty, and liberty under President Donald Trump. But the fight is never over, and we must be forever vigilant.
Businessman there, drink my wine.
Do you have a passion for American values? Do you believe in preserving the American dream? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, Monday through Saturday from 12 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 AM, or around the world on the internet at ccrshow.com and ccrsnetwork.com. Check out our websites for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where even more newsmakers go to be heard.
Hi, I'm Kevin Wade. Conservative Commandos is happy to welcome Liberty HealthShare as a sponsor. Liberty HealthShare is a community of health-conscious Americans who practice long-standing Christian principles in sharing health care costs. Liberty Health Share exists for everyone who purchases health care for themselves or their family, or who wants to control their own health care. I run a small business, and we were caught in the confusion of Washington's ever-changing health insurance requirements. We found a common-sense solution in Liberty Health Share. Liberty Health Share is not insurance. It simply unites like-minded Americans to share medical costs together. Join a community of health-conscious Americans who practice long-standing Christian principles in sharing health care costs. That's Liberty Health Share. To find out how you can easily make the change, call Liberty Health Share today at 855-585-4237. That's 855-585-4237, or visit their website at libertyhealthshare.org.
This is Pastor Christina Lamb-Menier, chaplain for the Indiana Republican Assembly.
And I'm her husband, J.D. Menier. We won the election, but we must now install President Trump's nominees. We urge you to call the Capitol Switchboard at 202-225-3121 and ask your senators to do their job. They need to confirm Judge Neil Gorsuch and remaining cabinet members.
We, the people, never want to see another Berkeley. The First Amendment doesn't give you the right to commit acts of violence. It pains us to watch anarchy unfold on college campuses, bus stops, and coffee shops. Thomas Jefferson said, "All tyranny needs to gain a foothold is for people of good conscience to remain silent." Let us join in unity to pray for America. Once again, the number to call is 202-225-3121.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
Welcome back, listeners. Welcome back to Conservative Commando's radio show with Sharon Engel and Anna Little. If you would like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show, please check out our website, CCRS Network, and ccrshow.com, or at 8 a.m., Leading Edge Radio Network, or at 11 p.m., HighPlainsTalkRadio.com. And now you can listen to the Conservative Commandos from any phone by calling 832-999-1199. Sharon Engel, would you like to help us go through who we are going to be speaking with this afternoon?
Yes, I would. You know, this afternoon at 3:35, which is coming right up in about 10 minutes, we're going to have a guest that we've had on many times, but he's such a great guy to talk about real issues, and that's Hans von Spakovsky. He is an authority on the wide range of issues, including civil rights, civil justice, the First Amendment, immigration, the rule of law, and government reform. And as a senior legal fellow at the Heritage Foundation's Edwin Meese III Center for Legal and Judicial Studies, he's quick to do analysis and commentary, which have appeared in places like the Wall Street Journal, Washington Times, Politico, Human Events, National Review Online, and Town Hall. Along with John Fund, he's the co-author of Who's Counting? How Fraudsters and Bureaucrats Put Your Vote at Risk, and Obama's enforcer, Eric Holder's Justice Department. Of course, that's a topic that's really near and dear to me is what goes on with our election integrity. So Hans von Spakovsky, that's a tongue twister for me, Anna. Hans von
he would admit that too.
Spakovsky. And he's going to talk about get real Democrats. There is no good reason for Sessions not to be confirmed. And we're going to be listening to him talk about the other side of that coin. As you know, they've picked out a few to give a rough time to, the Democrats have. But as our interview with Ken Blackwell went, he told us they don't need the Democrats. They need to just get these 549 confirmations done. That's our guest. That's our guest at 3:35.
And then at 4:05, you're going to have the honor of that one too.
That's right. That's Diane Waterman, who is a former chairwoman of the Republican Party of Maryland. She's the chief financial officer and IT specialist for Caldwell Banker and Waterman Realty in Queen Anne's County, Maryland. We're going to be talking to her about it's a great day to be a Republican in, guess where? Maryland. I can't believe it, Anna. We've got states that we've considered to be blue and never changed from that blue, not even to purple. And now here we've got Maryland, one of those kinds of states that we're going to be talking to Diane Waterman about, and she's saying it's a great day to be a Republican in Maryland.
Yeah, it's exciting stuff, so I can't wait to speak with her because I live in Blue, New Jersey, and what Maryland does, we ought to be able to do. So I'm looking forward to hearing what Diana Waterman has to say. I get the honor of introducing Representative Jim Jordan at 4:35. He's going to talk about that subject near and dear to all of our hearts, which is Obamacare repeal. He says repeal and replace. We're going to ask him, do we really need replace? And when you say replace, what do you mean by replace? God help us. But Jim Jordan obviously is from Ohio. He was raised in Champaign County, Ohio, graduating from Graham High School in 1982. He was a 4-time state champion in wrestling. That I'd like to interview him about. He had a career record of 150-1. Now, that's interesting. And he was a 2-time NCAA wrestling champion. I could go on, and I know producer Rick Trader asked me to shorten this bio, but I will tell you that Jim Jordan is an advocate of the taxpayer. He looks for waste, fraud, and abuse in the federal government. He serves on House Judiciary Committee and the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee. He's been chairman of the subcommittee on health care benefits and administrative rules. That's why we're having him on the show today to talk about Obamacare, actually the elimination, and I would use the word elimination, of Obamacare and giving us freedom with regard to our own decisions with regard to health care and health insurance. I don't think we have a problem with access to health care in this country. Not at all. We might have a problem with access to health insurance, but only when the economy is turned down and employers can't offer it because they can't afford to pay wages. That's what's wrong. We reduce regulations and taxes, we're not going to have a health insurance problem at all. Do you agree, Sharon?
I absolutely do. And you know, Kevin Wade said it to one of our congressmen there at CPAC. He says, if you don't repeal this and just get rid of it, you're going to wear it. And you don't want to wear Obamacare. I thought that was so funny.
Run away from it. Run as fast as you can away from it.
He said, you've got to do something, but it can't be anything that smells like Obamacare. Otherwise, you're going to be in big trouble because you'll own it. And he's right, Anna. He's right. And, you know, the other thing that we know about health care offerings by your employer is that was never a real offering until employers found that they needed to give incentives, but they couldn't give raises. It was during the war, and there were some issues there about salary raises and things. So they actually implemented a way to take care of you, to give you a benefit. And so with that, it was kind of interesting that we got into this whole, your employer provides health care. We really should take ownership of that ourselves, Anna. And
I agree.
We should be able to just cut out the middlemen, all the middlemen, including your employer. Just go direct and buy what you need.
Well, Sharon, we only have a little over a minute left, maybe a minute and a half, but I want an update on your grandson, Proud Grandma. I think you've got some news for us.
I do. We brought him home yesterday. I went to Stanford, picked up my daughter and Ben, and he came home. And he is living at home now with his family. It's kind of the end of the beginning of a journey, I guess you would say. He went to see his pediatrician today, and the pediatrician said he looks great. And we'll, of course, be seeing specialists. We still don't know exactly what to expect from the diagnosis that he has, but certainly we haven't seen anything that they predicted. And my son-in-law was funny today. He said, either they're lying to us, or every time they tell us something, we pray and God changes it. God heals it.
I like that idea.
Different.
This is a miracle, baby.
Yeah, I just said, Zach, that's the right attitude, is that God is listening, and God knows our need even before we know what our need is. And that's really what Benjamin Bruce Kincaid has become, is the picture of answered prayer, the picture of a miracle. And as you know, Anna, he doesn't talk. He just lays around and eats and gets fat. But he has made such an impact on America, and actually internationally. We have heard from people around the world about how can we save our babies.
And how many friends does he have on Facebook?
17,500 fans. You have to. You got a friend page, and then you got a fan page, and he's in the fan department now.
And listeners, if you're not one of those 17,500 people, well, what's keeping you? Get up there, get your updates. This is a beautiful, beautiful child, and a testimony to God's involvement in our everyday life. And with that, I've got to take us to a break, much as I'd like to keep talking about Big Ben. But we've got to go to a break. So, listeners, we are coming to you live from the Conservative Commandos Radio Network studios, WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia, and around the world on the Internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, and AM/FM 24/7. Those are all .coms. I'm Anna Little, co-hosting today with Sharon Engel. Silent John Forsythe is in the studios, keeping us on time and moving forward. We'll be right back with our first guest after this break.
I'm crazy. I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but
This is Rick Trader, host of the Conservative Commandos radio show.
And I'm John Forsythe, owner of WNJC Radio. Fellow Patriots, the Conservative Commandos radio show is for conservatives, about conservatives, and by conservatives.
We are patriots who want to take our country back from the likes of Barack Obama, Harry Reid, George Soros, and Nancy Pelosi.
But we can't keep up this fight without your critical support today. Can you help? Please go to www.helpccrs.com right now and make a donation by credit card or PayPal. That's www.helpccrs.com.
Our goal is to expose the liberal agenda and distortions. We are fighting to spread the truth about political issues, political leaders, and conservative issues and values.
Our hosts are not paid. In fact, we buy our own airtime, studio time, and pay our own expenses.
We created the show because we are trying to make a difference. So can you help the CCRS expose the truth in 2014 and beyond? Go to www.helpccrs.com.
Help keep the Conservative Commandos radio show on the air by going to www.helpccrs.com and make a donation today to return our country to the conservative roots created by our founding fathers.
If your health care has become a burden and you're worried about being stuck for another year, you have options. Liberty Health Share could be the solution to your problem. Open enrollment is here and could be your chance to free yourself from insurance. Take this opportunity and join Liberty Health Share. You can finally be in control and have freedom when it comes to your health care. Liberty Health Share offers an entirely open network, which means you choose your doctors and you choose your hospitals. Liberty Health Share offers freedom from insurance, meaning no tax-related penalties. To find out how you can easily make the change, call Liberty Health Share today at 855-585-4237. That's 855-585-4237. Or visit their website at libertyhealthshare.org. That's libertyhealthshare.org.
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811. PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
The Conservative Commandos Radio Show is the commander of the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. We've established a front line of conservative leaders and ironclad patriots to revive the promise of America.
There must be some kind of way out of here.
We patriots have succeeded in securing the next 4 years of American prosperity, sovereignty, and liberty under President Donald Trump. But the fight is never over, and we must be forever vigilant.
Businessman there, drink my wine.
Do you have a passion for American values? Do you believe in preserving the American dream? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, Monday through Saturday from 12 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 AM, or around the world on the internet at ccrshow.com and ccrsnetwork.com. Check out our websites for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where even more newsmakers go to be heard.
From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the internet, we're coming to you live from the CCRS studios. WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos Radio Show, where the newsmakers go to be heard.
Businessman there, drink my wine.
You can call the Conservative Commandos Radio Show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Welcome back, listeners, to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with yours truly, Sharon Angle, and my co-host, Anna Little. And if you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show, please check out our website, ccrsnetwork.com and ccrshow.com. Or at noon, you can log on to roarradio.net. 11 p.m., you can log on to High Plains Daily News. And now you can listen to the Conservative Commandos from any phone by calling 832-999-1199. And you know, my friend in Palo Alto who drives the Ronald McDonald bus back and forth to Stanford, his name is Tufa, and he is listening to Conservative Commandos radio show right now. I saw him yesterday because he loves the broadcast, and he's listening to it on his phone, 832-999-1199. And Anna, our first guest, is ready, and it's my honor and pleasure to introduce Hans von Spakovsky. He is an authority on a wide range of issues, including civil rights, civil justice, the First Amendment, immigration, the rule of law, and government reform. And he's a senior fellow at the Heritage Foundation's Edwin Meese III Center for Legal and Judicial Studies. His analysis and commentary have appeared in the Wall Street Journal, the Washington Times, Political, Human Events, National Review Online, and Town Hall. And along with John Fund, he's the co-author of Who's Counting? How Fraudsters and Bureaucrats Put Your Vote at Risk. and Obama's enforcer, Eric Holder's Justice Department, which really isn't justice. Hans, welcome back to Conservative Commando's radio show.
Well, thanks for inviting me back.
Well, it's always a pleasure to have you. And, of course, I'm thinking about how that's such an oxymoron, Eric Holder's Justice Department. And of course, the topic of your book, How Fraudsters and Bureaucrats Put Your Vote at Risk, is a topic that is near and dear to my heart. And I'd like to talk to you about that. But what we really asked you to talk about is get real Democrats. There's no good reason for Sessions to resign. Why are they picking on Jeff Sessions? And just give us a little background here, and then we'll talk about why he shouldn't resign.
Yeah, this is political grandstanding and a witch hunt at its worst, and it's really a tempest in a teapot. And why do I say that? Look, the accusation is that supposedly Jeff Sessions lied when he was at his confirmation hearing, when he was asked if he had any communications with the Russians. But if you look at the actual questions that he was asked, it's clear that he didn't lie. But a lot of the media reports just don't even go into the actual question he was asked. And let me give you an example of what I mean. He was not only asked this question by Al Franken at the confirmation hearing, but others have said that, he was also asked that same question in a written question sent to him by Senator Patrick Leahy of Vermont after the hearing. Well, I've got the exact question Patrick Leahy asked him, and what he asked Sessions was, have you ever, and this is a quote, been in contact with anyone connected to any part of the Russian government about the 2016 election? So the questions were specifically, have you been talking, as basic as part of the Trump campaign, to Russian officials about the election? Sessions said, no, I didn't do that. Now, all of a sudden, the Washington Post prints a story saying, he had 2 meetings with the Russian ambassador last year, so obviously he lied. Well, he didn't have any discussions with the Russian ambassador about the election. And one of those 2 meetings, it's a bit much to call it a meeting, one of them was an event at the RNC convention sponsored by the Heritage Foundation, where I work, several other organizations, and the Obama State Department. They had invited all these ambassadors, including the Russian ambassador, to come observe the RNC convention. And at that convention, we put on an educational conference. Guess who was the keynote speaker? Jeff Sessions. So the supposed meeting he had with the Russian ambassador was when he was the keynote speaker to a room filled with 100 people, including all these ambassadors. And when he finished talking, a group of the ambassadors came up to the stage to do what? To thank him for speaking. That's where supposedly some kind of nefarious activity went on in this room filled with all these ambassadors. I mean, the whole claim is just ridiculous from the start.
Well, it's good to hear the real news and not the fake news. Thank you so much, Hans, for bringing us real news here on Conservative Commando's radio show. It seems like they have picked out certain ones to really aim their firepower at. We saw that with Betsy DeVos and now here with Jeff Sessions. The rest, right, they seem to let kind of go by. Why do you think they're so excited about getting rid of Jeff Sessions and making him resign? Or, what's the underlying reason, their motivation, if you know?
Well, I'll tell you what it is. In the 8 years of the Obama administration, Eric Holder, Loretta Lynch politicized the Justice Department to an extent never seen before. I mean, that was something John Fund and I really documented in our book that you mentioned. And part of that, by the way, was for the past 8 years, they have been, I think, unlawfully filling career civil service slots with people who would otherwise be political appointees. They have stuffed the Justice Department with left-wing, very partisan, radical lawyers who support Barack Obama and the Democratic Party. And they don't like the idea of a new attorney general coming in who may upset that apple cart and who's going to do things like finally actually enforcing our immigration laws. That they don't like that. They want to do everything they can to get Sessions out of there. Somebody who has very much said he believes in the rule of law, and that's what they're going to do.
So really, it's not Jeff Sessions they're objecting to. It's the rule of law. They don't want anybody who will go in and really do the job that the Attorney General is supposed to do. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. I mean, another good example of that, and this has really, really upset the left, is remember now, about a week and a half ago, the Justice Department and the Department of Education sent a letter out withdrawing the prior, basically unlawful guidance that the Obama administration had sent to school districts all over the country, saying that you have to allow transgender students and anyone who identifies as being a different sex than their biological sex or their biological gender, you have to allow them to use bathrooms and locker rooms and things like that. The Obama administration had absolutely no legal basis for doing that, but they threatened all these local schools and said, if you don't do this, you're going to lose federal money. Well, the left is very upset, the progressive left, because that letter has been withdrawn, and that's one of the results of a rule of law guy like Jeff Sessions becoming the Attorney General, because he knows federal law doesn't authorize that.
Well, they must know that Donald Trump is not going to pick someone else besides Jeff Sessions that would have any other inclination through the rule of law. It seems like, as you said, just a witch hunt. And we're coming up on a break, Hans. Can you stay through the break with us just a couple of minutes? I know that my co-host Anna Little wants to talk with you. Thank you so much. I know your time is important, and we're going to take this as quickly as possible. This is Sharon Angle with Anna Little and our special guest, Hans von Spakovsky, and we're talking about the confirmation of Jeff Sessions. And if you would like to listen to the Conservative Commandos radio show, we're coming to you live from the Conservative Commandos Radio Network studios, WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia, and around the world on the internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, and AM FM 24/7. Those are all .com. So we'll be right back after this message.
They say I'm nasty, but I...
The Conservative Commandos radio show is the commander of the Conservative Commandos radio network. We've established a front line of conservative leaders and ironclad patriots to revive the promise of America.
There must be some kind of way out of here.
We patriots have succeeded in securing the next 4 years of American prosperity, sovereignty, and liberty under President Donald Trump. But the fight is never over, and we must be forever vigilant.
Businessman there, drink my wine.
Do you have a passion for American values? Do you believe in preserving the American dream? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, Monday through Saturday from 12 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 AM, or around the world on the internet at ccrshow.com and ccrsnetwork.com. Check out our websites for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where even more newsmakers go to be heard.
Hi, I'm Kevin Wade. Conservative Commandos is happy to welcome Liberty HealthShare as a sponsor. Liberty HealthShare is a community of health-conscious Americans who practice long-standing Christian principles in sharing health care costs. Liberty HealthShare exists for everyone who purchases health care for themselves or their family, or who wants to control their own health care. I run a small business, and we were caught in the confusion of Washington's ever-changing health insurance requirements. We found a common-sense solution in Liberty HealthShare. Liberty HealthShare is not insurance. It simply unites like-minded Americans to share medical costs together. Join a community of health-conscious Americans who practice long-standing Christian principles in sharing health care costs. That's Liberty Health Share. To find out how you can easily make the change, call Liberty Health Share today at 855-585-4237. That's 855-585-4237, or visit their website at libertyhealthshare.org.
This is Pastor Christina Lamb-Menier, chaplain for the Indiana Republican Assembly.
And I'm her husband, J.D. Menier. We won the election, but we must now install President Trump's nominees. We urge you to call the Capitol switchboard at 202-225-3121 and ask your senators to do their job. They need to confirm Judge Neil Gorsuch and remaining cabinet members.
We the people never want to see another Berkeley. The First Amendment doesn't give you the right to commit acts of violence. It pains us to watch anarchy unfold on college campuses, bus stops, and coffee shops. Thomas Jefferson said, "All tyranny needs to gain a foothold is for people of good conscience to remain silent." Let us join in unity to pray for America. Once again, the number to call is 202-225-3121.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
Welcome back, listeners. Welcome back to Conservative Commando's radio show with Sharon Angle and Anna Little. If you would like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show, please check out our website, CCRS Network, and ccrshow.com, or at 8 a.m., Leading Edge Radio Network, at 11 p.m., highplainstalkradio.com. And now you can listen to the Conservative Commandos from any phone by calling 832-999-1199. We are speaking this segment with Hans von Spakovsky. He's speaking to us about Jeff Sessions and his article posted on foxnews.com, Get Real, Democrats. There's no good reason for Sessions to resign. Hans von Spakovsky, thanks so much for waiting through that break. We do appreciate your time.
Well, it's nice to talk to you, and I always like being on your show.
Well, good. I'm glad. Well, now, listen, we've got a little clip from YouTube. I think it was actually put up there by CNN. It's of a Democrat senator. I think it's Joe Manchin from West Virginia, and they are talking about this very issue, these foreign ambassadors and senators. Now, John, if you've got that, can you cue it up for us and play it right now?
Sure, with Jeff.
And have you met with the Russian ambassador in your capacity?
I have. I've met with the Russian ambassador with a group in my capacity with a group of other senators. Yes, that happens. We meet with all the ambassadors, or try to anyway, to build the relationships that you can, to have some decourse whatsoever, and that we can basically talk and have some type of interactions back and forth and know where in the world people are coming from. Mm-hmm. So that's not unusual. That's not unusual.
Well, there you have it. Hans von Spakovsky, talk to us about that. Apparently, the meetings between these foreign ambassadors and senators are not unusual, according to the Democrat senator from West Virginia, Joe Manchin. Talk to us.
Yeah, and that's just another sign of the absolute hypocrisy and really the fake news coming out of this. Look, last year, Senator Jeff Sessions met with 25 ambassadors from different countries. And to show you just how fake what is going on here is, Claire McCaskill, who's another Democratic senator, she got caught yesterday. She put out tweets saying, well, I've been on the Armed Services Committee for 10 years. I've never had a call or a meeting with the Russian ambassador ever. We don't meet with them. So somebody dug through her Twitter file and found her talking about her prior meetings with the Russian ambassador just a couple of years ago. So that shows you how the left and the Democrats are just making things up in order to try to get Jeff Sessions.
Well, so here's my take on this, Hans, and I want you to certainly react to it, and feel free to disagree if you want to. But I think that this is just a last-ditch effort at some kind of a witch hunt because they're grasping at straws. And the reason they're grasping at straws is they lost the House, they lost the Senate, and they just lost the presidency. And the reason they did is because we, the people, don't agree with their propaganda and they don't agree with their policy. Now, what's your take?
Oh, no, I think you've pegged it exactly. And I think they declared war the day after the election, saying we are going to do everything we can to in essence, stage a coup against Donald Trump as president, and we're going to oppose everything he does, everyone he appoints, because we don't want anything to get accomplished. And this is all part of this game that they're playing. I mean, it's a very serious game, but it is a political game that they're playing, and that's the explanation for the kind of political witch hunt that has gone on for people like Jeff Sessions.
Well, you know, one of our founders had stated in answering a question, what type of government have you gotten us? The answer was a representative democracy if you can keep it. That is going through my mind right now because this is one of the weaknesses in a representative democracy. You have representatives taking the voice of people, or at least that's what they're supposed to be doing, down into government. They're supposed to follow through on the voice of the people, and if the people like it, they keep them where they are, and if the people don't like it, they replace them at each election cycle. In the case of Congress people, it can be 2 years or 6 years. In the case of the president, it's 4. And of course, 2 terms would be 8. So the problem with the representative democracy is the freedom of the press. And I don't necessarily know that freedom of the press itself is a problem, but you can't control what comes out of people's mouths. And it's up to we, the people, to determine whether it's truth or whether it's falsehood. And it's difficult to do when a certain party has, I won't say a monopoly, but a large percentage of the traditional media outlets. Thank God for the Internet. I don't know where we'd be without it. What are your thoughts?
Oh, no, I agree with you. I mean, thank goodness it's not 1968 when there were only 3 major networks plus PBS who could control the news and what the American people saw and read about. Thank goodness for the Internet. There are so many alternate sources today of news. Plus, we have channels like Fox News and others, Newsmax, all kinds of others. And the whole point of this is that there is finally a countervailing story out there. And these days, stations like networks like CBS and others, they can't get away with the kind of fake news they print because there are so many conservative news websites and opinion places that will look at what they do and bring and call them out on it. And we see that now all the time. So thank goodness we've got these alternate sources of news and opinion, because I think it really acts counter to the mainstream media. Look, that's one of the reasons, as you know, the American people don't like them and don't trust them at a rate that I think is lower than their contempt for members of Congress.
Well, you know, I also wanted to take a look at what they're asking in Jeff Sessions. I mean, they're asking for resignation. And they're trying to say that the reason he should resign is because he said something that was not true. In other words, he perjured himself. That's what they're trying to say. I'm wondering, first of all, it isn't true, but I'm wondering if this tactic isn't because they've been successful with leaks in obtaining the resignation of another cabinet member just last month. Do you want to talk about whether you see any relationship between the demands that are being made now and perhaps what has occurred with this other cabinet member just last month?
Look, I think you're right. They saw their success with Michael Flynn because they didn't like him, and that spurred them on to do more. Look, there's no question that Michael Flynn should have told the vice president accurately that he had conversations with the Russian ambassador. But in that whole case, the entire media focused on the wrong thing. Michael Flynn did not violate federal law. There's nothing that prevents him from the Russian ambassador or the German ambassador or anyone else outside of the country. The actual crime that was committed in that case was the disclosure of classified information through leaks coming out of the intelligence agencies that disclosed to the Russians that we are successfully listening to the telephone conversations that their ambassador has. That was the worst part of that entire thing, and I'm actually sorry that Flynn resigned. I would have hoped that they would have kept him on, but the point is, the real crime just went unnoticed, and the media didn't care about it.
Well, we'll have to do something about that at some point, Hans. But we have to close this. It went so fast. Time flies when we're having fun. Remind our guests where they can follow you so that they can keep up with this and other important issues.
Sure, they can do it at heritage.org. I publish elsewhere, too, but often it's then republished at the Heritage website.
Thank you so much, Hans von Spakovsky. Get real, Democrats. There's no good reason for Sessions to resign. Do come back and see us again soon.
Sure, anytime.
And listeners, we are at another break. Woof, time is going fast. I want to just thank our guest, Hans von Spakovsky, because this is a really important issue. But we are coming to you live from the Conservative Commandos Radio Network studios, WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia, and around the world on the Internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, and AM/FM 24/7. Those are all .com. I'm Anna Little, co-hosting today with Sharon Engel, Silent John Forsythe on the boards in the studio. We'll all be right back after this break.
This is Rick Trader, host of the Conservative Commandos radio show.
And I'm John Forsythe, owner of WNJC Radio. Fellow Patriots, the Conservative Commandos radio show is for conservatives, about conservatives, and by conservatives.
We are patriots who want to take our country back from the likes of Barack Obama, Harry Reid, George Soros, and Nancy Pelosi.
But we can't keep up this fight without your critical support today. Can you help? Please go to www.helpccrs.com right now and make a donation by credit card or PayPal. That's www.helpccrs.com.
Our goal is to expose the liberal agenda and distortions.
We are fighting to spread the truth about political issues, political leaders, and conservative issues and values.
Our hosts are not paid. In fact, we buy our own airtime, studio time, and pay our own expenses.
We created the show because we are trying to make a difference. So can you help the CCRS expose the truth in 2014 and beyond? Go to www.helpccrs.com.
Help keep the Conservative Commandos radio show on the air by going to www.helpccrs.com and make a donation today to return our country to the conservative roots created by our founding fathers.
If your health care has become a burden and you're worried about being stuck for another year, you have options. Liberty Health Share could be the solution to your problem. Open enrollment is here and could be your chance to free yourself from insurance. Take this opportunity and join Liberty Health Share. You can finally be in control and have freedom when it comes to your health care. Liberty Health Share offers an entirely open network, which means you choose your doctors and you choose your hospitals. Liberty Health Share offers freedom from insurance, meaning no tax-related penalties. To find out how you can easily make the change, call Liberty Health Share today at 855-585-4237. That's 855-585-4237. Or visit their website at libertyhealthshare.org. That's libertyhealthshare.org.
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811. PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
The Conservative Commandos Radio Show is the commander of the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. We've established a front line of conservative leaders and ironclad patriots to revive the promise of America.
There must be some kind of way out of here.
We patriots have succeeded in securing the next 4 years of American prosperity, sovereignty, and liberty under President Donald Trump. But the fight is never over, and we must be forever vigilant.
Businessman there, drink my wine.
Do you have a passion for American values? Do you believe in preserving the American dream? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, Monday through Saturday from 12 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 AM, or around the world on the internet at ccrshow.com and ccrsnetwork.com. Check out our websites for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where even more newsmakers go to be heard.
From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the internet, we're coming to you live from the CCRS studios. WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos Radio Show, where the newsmakers go to be heard.
Businessman there, drink my wine.
You can call the Conservative Commandos Radio Show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
You are listening to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show, and you're listening to Sharon Engel, yours truly, Anna Little, and our great guest today, Hans von Spakovsky, that you just heard from. We're going to be talking with Diana Waterman next, and Jim Jordan later on today. And if you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show, please check out our websites, ccrsnetwork.com and ccrshow.com. Or at noon, you can log on to roarradio.net. At 11 p.m., log on to highplainsdailynews.com. And now you can listen to Conservative Commandos from any phone by calling 832-999-1199. And Anna, it is my pleasure to introduce Diana Waterman, who is a former chairwoman for the Republican Party of Maryland. She's the chief financial officer and IT specialist for Coldwell Banker and Waterman Realty in Queen Anne's County, Maryland. Diana Waterman, welcome to Conservative Commandos Radio Show.
Thank you so much, Sharon and Anna. It's a pleasure to be here with you both.
Well, Diana, I'm interested because you say it's a great day to be a Republican in Maryland. I don't think about Maryland as being Republican. I think about them as being Democrat. Why is it a great day?
Well, it's a great day to, I actually started that tagline on my signature with my emails. back in 2014, maybe even a little before that, but in 2014, Maryland took a major step to the right with the election of Governor Larry Hogan. We increased our number of delegates in our House of Delegates to a record high number of 50, increased our number in the state Senate, and grew our number of locally elected officials by about 60. So while, yes, Maryland is still a very, very blue state, the Democrats outnumber us about 2-1. It is there is still 1 million Republicans in our state, and the people, even the Democrats in our state, have saw after 8 years of failed policies with Martin O'Malley that they needed a change, and they listened to Governor Hogan's very common sense message about making Maryland business friendly, growing the economy, helping middle class Marylanders. They responded to it, they voted him in, and his approval ratings continue to be very high.
Well, as the chairwoman of the Republican Party, tell us what your strategy was to get that message out to Democrats, independent people that might actually have an open mind when it comes to elections.
Well, basically Martin O'Malley and Anthony Brown did the work for us, our former governor and lieutenant governor, and then Anthony Brown was the candidate running against, at the time, then candidate Hogan. And basically, the campaign, as well as the party, took the pulse of the people in Maryland. We had over 40 tax and fee increases over the last 8 years. Governor O'Malley grew the budget year after year after year after year and put that on the back of the taxpayers of Maryland. Jobs were leaving by the droves. People were leaving by the droves. Anybody who could leave the state did. Everybody knew someone who had. And basically they were receptive to the message of lower spending, less spending, but not at the cost of government programs. But lower spending means lower taxes, more money in your pocket. Job growth, business growth means more opportunities for employment and better employment. And the one thing that Governor Hogan has done, or one of the things that Governor Hogan has done that has been so unique to many elected officials, is he has actually governed as he ran. Everything he has done has gone in towards making Maryland better for all Marylanders, regardless of your party affiliation.
That is so important, Diane. I was going to ask you that question because we have had a problem of late with Republicans not really being Republican. We know that the party says it's lower taxes, less government regulation, and that the party is definitely not only fiscally conservative but socially conservative. And yet, once they're elected, our Republican officials seem to just move to the left. They seem to think that that's the way that they have to govern in order to keep office. And I was just going to ask, how are your Republicans doing? Are they standing firm as Republicans, or do you see that waffling happening even in Maryland?
Well, I wouldn't so much call it waffling. I mean, there is a definite the majority. Twice as many Democrats as Republicans, 2 million to approximately 1 million, with about 700,000 unaffiliated, makes for a difficult statewide race anytime somebody's trying to run statewide, because you cannot win without Democrat and unaffiliated votes. So you can't be too conservative, but the areas that we focused on and that Governor Hogan focused on in his election, his statewide election, were jobs and the economy, fiscal conservative matters. Our legislature is overwhelmingly controlled by the Democrats, with only 50 House members and 14 out of 47 Senate members. We can't change the laws in our state. So as far as the social issues are concerned, abortion, gay marriage, even not so much social, but very near and dear to conservatives' hearts, gun control, on all of those issues, the governor did not campaign on any of those. And I wouldn't say that he waffles on them. He just doesn't lead with them. He is leading with what is most important to most Marylanders. And at the end of the day, if you can't put a roof over your head, your family's head, feed your family, take care of your family, then everything else kind of goes goes down a few pegs, those are the things that are most important to most people, is taking care of their families. So we're working on those. It's very important that we get our governor reelected in 2018 when he is up, because then he will control the all-important redistricting that will follow the 2020 census. And when that happens, everything changes in Maryland.
Well, everything changes all over the United States when reapportionment happens.
That's true. Well,
talk to us.
I worry about my little piece of the world.
Yeah, talk to us though a little bit. Your little piece of the world is a microcosm of everybody's piece of the world in the United States. Talk to us a little bit about President Trump and how he did in Maryland, and what, because he didn't mince any words on any of those issues. He just hit them straight on. So talk to how Maryland responded to that.
Well, Maryland responded like Maryland usually responds. When we're looking at national elections, anything that has a statewide voting result, the Democrats always triumph. I should say the Democrats almost always triumph. They didn't triumph in 2014. But in 2016, Maryland overwhelmingly went for Hillary and not for Donald Trump. But that isn't to say there wasn't a strong showing of support among the Republicans. In our Republican counties, President Trump did exceedingly well. I'm from the eastern shore of Maryland, which is a very Republican area. There are no elected Democrats at all in my county, but my county went overwhelmingly for Trump. The problem is the population centers in our state, Baltimore City, Montgomery County, Prince George's County, Howard County, to the extent, they all went for Hillary. So it's difficult living in a blue state when you're a Republican, but we've been doing pretty well, and I actually see a turn in the tide, so to speak, in that the Republican messages are resonating even with the Democrats in our state. Well, the Democrat voters, maybe not the Democrat electeds.
Well, that's surely good news, and we had to use a Clinton-esque term. We feel your pain. I'm from Nevada, and we went blue this time too, and it's hard when, as you say, those populist areas are going mostly Democrat. We have to take a short break. Diana, could you stay with us through the break, because I know Anna Little wants to ask you some questions.
Sure, certainly.
Thank you so much. We are talking to Diana Waterman about a great day for Republicans in Maryland, and we are coming to you live from the Conservative Commandos Radio Network studios at WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia, and around the world on the Internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, and AM/FM 24/7. Those are all .com. We'll be back with you right after this short message with Sharon Engel, Anna Little, and our guest, Diana Waterman.
I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but I...
The Conservative Commandos Radio Show is the commander of the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. We've established a front line of conservative leaders and ironclad patriots to revive the promise of America.
There must be some kind of way out of here.
We patriots have succeeded in securing the next 4 years of American prosperity, sovereignty, and liberty under President Donald Trump. But the fight is never over, and we must be forever vigilant.
Businessman there, drink my wine.
Do you have a passion for American values? Do you believe in preserving the American dream? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, Monday through Saturday from 12 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 AM, or around the world on the Internet at ccrshow.com and ccrsnetwork.com. Check out our websites for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where even more newsmakers go to be heard.
Hi, I'm Kevin Wade. Conservative Commandos is happy to welcome Liberty HealthShare as a sponsor. Liberty HealthShare is a community of health-conscious Americans who practice long-standing Christian principles in sharing health care costs. Liberty HealthShare exists for everyone who purchases health care for themselves or their family, or who wants to control their own health care. I run a small business, and we were caught in the confusion of Washington's ever-changing health insurance requirements. We found a common-sense solution in Liberty HealthShare. Liberty HealthShare is not insurance. It simply unites like-minded Americans to share medical costs together. Join a community of health-conscious Americans who practice long-standing Christian principles in sharing health care costs. That's Liberty HealthShare. To find out how you can easily make the change, call Liberty HealthShare today at 855-585-4237. That's 855-585-4237, or visit their website at libertyhealthshare.org.
This is Pastor Christina Lamanier, chaplain for the Indiana Republican Assembly.
And I'm her husband, J.D. Manier. We won the election, but we must now install President Trump's nominees. We urge you to call the Capitol Switchboard at 202-225-3121 and ask your senators to do their job. They need to confirm Judge Neil Gorsuch and remaining cabinet members.
We, the people, never want to see another Berkeley. The First Amendment doesn't give you the right to commit acts of violence. It pains us to watch anarchy unfold on college campuses, bus stops, and coffee shops. Thomas Jefferson said, "All tyranny needs to gain a foothold is for people of good conscience to remain silent." Let us join in unity to pray for America. Once again, the number to call is 202-225-3121.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
Welcome back, listeners. Welcome back to Conservative Commandos radio show with Sharon Angle and Anna Little. If you would like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show, please check out our website, CCRS Network, and CCRshow.com, or at 8 a.m., Leading Edge Radio Network, or at 11 p.m., HighPlainsTalkRadio.com. And now you can listen to the Conservative Commandos from any phone by calling 832-999-1199. We are speaking this segment with Diana Waterman, former chairwoman of the Republican Party of Maryland. Diana, thank you so much for waiting through that break. We do appreciate your time.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me again.
Well, Sharon and I have both come up as conservative, and I mean right-wing conservative Republicans in blue states. Here you are in the state of Maryland saying it's a great day to be a Republican. You have a Republican governor in Larry Hogan. Do you have advice for us who are still fighting? Obviously, Chris Christie will be leaving office here in New Jersey, and we are facing this year the election of his successor, and we're really not sure which direction that election is going to go. We need some advice from you.
I'm not sure I'm the best person to give the advice. In many ways, as with many things political, I think luck has a lot to play with it, has to do with it. We were lucky to have a great candidate in Governor Hogan. We were lucky to have such a horrible 8 years with the preceding governor, Governor O'Malley, and with basically looking at a continuation of his term in Anthony Brown. And the people it was the right situation, the right candidate, and everything came very well together. The Hogan campaign worked very closely with the state party throughout the general election, which I think was also beneficial. But I can't claim any great secrets here other than good hard work. It's just all the same things that we all know that we have to do. We have to have a great candidate. We have to have a good message, know what appeals to the people, have great message discipline. That is one thing that I will definitely give to Governor Hogan. He is the poster child for message discipline. He figured out what the voters were interested in. He campaigned on that, and no matter how hard the liberals tried to pull him off, asking him about abortion or gun control or gay marriage or any other issues based other than what he wanted to talk about, the fiscal issues. He didn't let himself get pulled over. That's a big problem with many conservative Republican candidates, that we allow them to control the narrative. He didn't. So those are my best things. And, of course, lots of hard work, good volunteers. Nothing beats boots on the ground.
Yeah, I agree with the boots on the ground. You know, I'm in liberal New Jersey. We go blue in every presidential race. And very often in the gubernatorial, we have a blue legislature. Even Chris Christie couldn't seem to turn that over. But I do find that when I walk door to door, the values that we put out as conservatives are shared among many of those who would be union Democrats. They're the workers that are members of these unions, not the leadership. And so I'm just thinking we must be able to reach those folks and to show that we share their values and gain their votes. It has to be possible. I know I came up in New Jersey. I was born and raised here, and I'm not unique in my views. I know that. What's unique about me is I don't work for a union. Do you want to talk about the influence of unions in blue states? Maybe you can give us a little insight there.
Oh, I'm not sure what I can add to what you said, but most definitely agree with that. When you go door to door, when you talk to regular folks, you find out that the things that are important to them are the same things that are important to all of us conservatives, to all of us Republicans. That they're not all far left-leaning liberals. In fact, most of them aren't. And I think we saw a lot of that in President Trump's election this year. I mean, he won across wide swaths of average, everyday Americans who said, yeah, that's what I think. You think the way I think. I'm going to give you a chance. So the best thing that we can do is breaking through that generational stereotyping bias, I think, that exists out there. The union people have been told, members of unions have been told by their unions for as long as can be remembered, that you have to vote Democrat if you want to preserve our way of life and if you want to protect your wages and your job and all of those things, because those bad, evil Republicans, those bad conservatives, they want to take it all away from you. Whether you're talking unions or if you're talking various minority groups, different areas like that. African American, I met an African American woman who told me she was brought up being told that she could not vote for a Republican. Her vote wouldn't count if she voted for a Republican, and she had to vote Democrat. All of a sudden, one day, through listening to the candidates and looking at the people that she had been voting for, she discovered that the people that she were voting for did not represent her interests. And she had this epiphany light bulb moment where she figured out, after having met with and spoke to a variety of Republicans, that she was indeed a Republican. So not only was she at one time a Democrat, she switched parties and ended up running on the Republican ticket. Unfortunately, she didn't win, but she's representative of a whole segment of the population. For whatever reason, they have been trained, I was going to say brainwashed, but I don't want to say brainwashed, but they have been trained by the people in their lives to believe that Republicans and Republican values don't represent theirs when they really do.
Well, I loved what you said about message discipline being central to reaching out to voters in states that have been traditionally blue, if you're a conservative Republican and you're attempting to run, because we know that there's been a lot of fear-mongering around the social issues. Do you want to talk about how you're able to avoid the pitfalls of being let's say, defined by your opponents and their allies in the media?
Sure. As I see it, the best way to do that is when confronted with a question about abortion or whatever issue it may be. You don't diminish the importance of the issue, but you just turn it back around to what you're talking. In other words, that's a very important issue. However, in our state, our laws is such and such, and I'm not here to debate the merits of the law as it stands now. Instead, I'd like to talk about bringing jobs back to Maryland, helping to grow our middle-class Marylanders' opportunities. Excuse me. Sorry, I had trouble finding the word. Grow opportunities for our middle-class Marylanders, for all Marylanders. And so you just turn it back and then keep talking about what you want to talk about.
That's a perfect example of how it should pivot. I like that. Thank you very much. And we can use this, I guess, listeners, in our advocacy for our issues and also for our candidates as we're going around. We've got to make sure that we don't get dragged into the fight. You know, we conservative Republicans very often like a fight. We don't mind battling out on social media and all of that. But if we're focused on winning an election, we have very precious short time to get our message out. And so we need to make sure we stay strong on the main message and that we keep things focused in that direction. Well, Diana, time flies when we're having fun, and we're about out of time, but I want to give you a chance to wrap up and tell our listeners where they can follow you and the Republican Party in Maryland, how we can get on board with you and help you get a legislature that will work with Governor Hogan.
Well, thank you very much. The Maryland Republican Party, their website is mdgop.org. That's MD as in the abbreviation for Maryland, GOP.org. As far as I'm not terribly interesting to follow, but it's Diana Waterman is my Facebook account and Twitter account. And the way we help get our governor reelected is one thing, money, of course. Anybody want to send any money our way to my state party or our governor's race, that's a great thing. With anybody that you know in Maryland, make sure you know that you're talking about our governor with those people that might happen to not live wherever it is that you live. That's always great. For Marylanders, volunteer with the campaign, volunteer with the party. You can be involved in so many different ways. There's something for everybody, and with technology today, it's even greater. And do what you can to support all the Republicans in your own state, be you blue, be it red or blue. Those are all great things. And in Maryland, we're going to keep working on trying to get redistricting reform through. In fact, that was being heard today in our legislature, because the best way to make Maryland better for all Marylanders is to get fair and balanced redistricting, which Maryland doesn't have in the slightest.
I love the idea of redistricting. We have a problem with that here in New Jersey. I know Sharon is concerned about it out in Nevada. Diana Waterman, thank you so much for spending this time with Conservative Commandos. We hope you'll come back and see us again soon.
I would love to. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Well, listeners, that was Diana Waterman. She is a former chairwoman of the Republican Party of Maryland. She is celebrating the election of their Republican Governor, Larry Hogan. Check her out. Check out the Republicans in Maryland. But right now, we do have to go to a break, and I'm going to take us to that. We are coming to you live from the Conservative Commandos Radio Network Studios, WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia and around the world on the Internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, and AM/FM 24/7. Those are all .coms. I'm Anna Little, co-hosting today with Sharon Engel. John Forsyth is keeping us on time and functioning there on the boards in the studio. We'll all be right.
The Conservative Commandos Radio Show.
And I'm John Forsyth, owner of WNJC Radio. Fellow Patriots, the Conservative Commandos Radio Show is for conservatives, about conservatives, and by conservatives.
We are patriots who want to take our country back from the likes of Barack Obama, Harry Reid, George Soros, and Nancy Pelosi.
But we can't keep up this fight without your critical support today. Can you help? Please go to www.helpccrs.com right now and make a donation by credit card or PayPal. That's www.helpccrs.com.
Our goal is to expose the liberal agenda and distortions.
We are fighting to spread the truth about political issues, political leaders, and conservative issues and values.
Our hosts are not paid. In fact, we buy our own airtime, studio time, and pay our own expenses.
We created the show because we are trying to make a difference. So can you help the CCRS expose the truth in 2014 and beyond? Go to www.helpccrs.com.
Help keep the Conservative Commandos radio show on the air by going to www.helpccrs.com and make a donation today to return our country to the conservative roots created by our founding fathers.
If your health care has become a burden and you're worried about being stuck for another year, you have options. Liberty Health Share could be the solution to your problem. Open enrollment is here and could be your chance to free yourself from insurance. Take this opportunity and join Liberty Health Share. You can finally be in control and have freedom when it comes to your health care. Liberty Health Share offers an entirely open network, which means you choose your doctors and you choose your hospitals. Liberty Health Share offers freedom from insurance, meaning no tax-related penalties. To find out how you can easily make the change, call Liberty Health Share today at 855-585-4237. That's 855-585-4237. Or visit their website at libertyhealthshare.org. That's libertyhealthshare.org.
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811. PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
The Conservative Commandos Radio Show is the commander of the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. We've established a front line of conservative leaders and ironclad patriots to revive the promise of America.
There must be some kind of way out of here.
We patriots have succeeded in securing the next 4 years of American prosperity, sovereignty, and liberty under President Donald Trump. But the fight is never over, and we must be forever vigilant.
Businessman there, drink my wine.
Do you have a passion for American values? Do you believe in preserving the American dream? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, Monday through Saturday from 12 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 AM, or around the world on the internet at ccrshow.com and ccrsnetwork.com. Check out our websites for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where even more newsmakers go to be heard.
From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the internet, we're coming to you live from the CCRS studios. WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos Radio Show, where the newsmakers go to be heard.
Businessman there, drink my wine.
You can call the Conservative Commandos Radio Show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Welcome back, listeners. Welcome back to Conservative Commandos Radio Show with Darren Engel and Anna Little. If you would like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show, please check out our website, CCRS Network, and ccrshow.com. Or at 8 a.m., Leading Edge Radio Network. Or at 11 p.m., highplainstalkradio.com. And now you can listen to the Conservative Commandos from any phone by calling 832-999-1199. Our next guest is with us, and the honor of the introduction is mine. Representative Jim Jordan is a four-time state champion in wrestling. Bet you didn't know that. With a career record of 150-1, two-time NCAA wrestling champion, but we know him best as the conservative representative in Congress who has led the fight against tax hikes, including those proposed by his own political party, thank God for that. We have to keep Republicans conservative. He has introduced the only balanced budget alternative to President Obama's budget. He has served as chairman of the House Republican Study Committee. He's been the first chairman of the House Freedom Caucus. He now serves on the House Judiciary Committee and the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee. He's been chairman of the subcommittee on health care benefits and administrative rules. And in 2012, he won the Wyrick Award for National Legislator of the Year. Representative Jim Jordan, welcome to Conservative Commando's radio show.
Good to be with you this afternoon.
Well, I have to say, your wrestling skills may come in handy given what's going on between Democrats and Republicans today. And that's why I had to hone in on that one. Representative,
sure.
Please tell us, what is going on with Obamacare?
Well, I think you got to start first from where we're at. Everyone knows this thing is a mess. Look, Obamacare said we're going to put all these mandates, taxes, and regulations on the insurance, on insurance, drive up the cost of insurance, mandate you buy it, and if you don't, you get penalized. And because it's such a bad plan, they had to mislead us when they sold this to the American people. Remember Jonathan Gruber? He was the guy that the New York Times called the architect of Obamacare. He was also the guy who was caught on tape saying, oh, yeah, we misled the American people. We lied to the American people because they knew that this thing was such a mess that they had to do it that way. And they told us all kinds of false statements. Now, here we are, and the key is real simple. Do what we told the voters we were going to do. Repeal this law and then replace it with a market-centered, patient-centered plan, not what we currently have right now under Obamacare, which is a Washington-focused approach to health care.
You know, I love the idea of repeal. I know we really felt hoodwinked when that went in under cover of night in, I believe it was December, and you know, people were expecting to go home for the holidays, and here we woke up one day and we were saddled with this huge government mandate. Come to find out, there was more support for abortion and then the possibility of death panels, and it just was a complete and utter nightmare. The most un-American thing, the most unaffordable thing that we as taxpayers had ever seen. And we're still saddled with this thing, and I think largely the changeover of the Congress, the House, the changeover of control of the Senate, and now the election of President Donald Trump is in reaction to that ridiculousness, I think, went on.
Yeah, you're exactly right. You know, there's all these protests going on around the country, and that's fine. You know, we have this wonderful, thing called the First Amendment, and this is American democracy in action. That's great. I'm willing to talk to them. But the protests we got to remember, the protests that matter the most were the ones that took place in 2010 on Election Day, 2014 on Election Day, and the one that took place on November 8th. That's the protest we have to remember. And the voters spoke loudly and clearly on a number of issues, and certainly front and center on that whole debate was getting rid of Obamacare. Everyone knows how bad it's been. Higher premiums, higher deductibles, fewer choices. This thing has got to go. So you're right. Let's repeal it. Let's put the same thing on President Trump's desk that we put on President Obama's desk, the repeal measure, and then at the same time, let's have a separate piece of legislation that replaces it with patient-centered health care.
Well, I love the patient-centered health care. I'm a little afraid of the replace. Talk to us why we need to replace, and if we're going to replace, what can we expect? Because we really don't want any more government mandates.
Yeah, no, and it's our concern, too, because the leaked bill we've heard about from leadership basically says we're going to repeal Obamacare, but we're going to keep Medicaid expansion. We're going to repeal Obamacare, but we're going to keep we're going to add this new tax increase. And it also says we're going to repeal Obamacare, but we're going to start this new tax credit, this new entitlement called advanced refundable tax credit. I'm all for tax credits for people who have a tax liability. What I'm not for is for people who don't pay taxes getting a tax credit, because that's just a fancy way of saying you're getting another subsidy and we're starting a new entitlement. So those are our concerns from the leaked version. We're working to change some of that and make sure we get a plan that actually does what we told voters we were going to do.
So how are things going then with the plan to come away from that? I mean, obviously we expect conservative leadership in the House and conservatives in the Senate to hold the line on these issues. Are you having any success in bringing over more moderate Republicans to your cause? Because, all Republicans ran on smaller government and less taxes, less regulation.
Yeah,
so talk to us.
yeah, we're having that debate right now. It's gonna really unfold over the next 3 weeks because the time frame that the Speaker of the House has laid out is to vote on this in final passage out of the House in 3 weeks. So I think that's going to heat up. We'd like to see the bill that they're talking about. We can't even see the legislation, so that'd be nice if we could see the legislation. What I will tell you is the House Freedom Caucus, the conservatives in the House, and Senator Paul in the Senate, we have put a plan out there. And our plan is real direct. Our plan says repeal it just like we did before. The exact same thing we voted on in the end of 2015, put that on President Trump's desk, just like we put on President Obama's desk, and then have that separate replace legislation that's free market, that's not tax increases, that's not more mandates, that's free market, encouraging health savings accounts, allow interstate shopping, encourage the Association of Health Plans to form, all those things, treat individuals in the individual market, give them the same tax deduction that people currently get in buying who have employer-sponsored plans. So that's our plan that we think will actually bring the cost of insurance down. We want to get back to affordable health insurance, which is not what we have right now under Obamacare.
Well, all of that sounds wonderful. I'm liking the Freedom Caucus plan. What can we do and what can our listeners do to help you in getting other Republicans to come along with you? Because we've got control in the House and in the Senate. We should be able to get this thing passed. We just need to do what we can to help get your plan passed.
Yeah, no, just keep talking about it. I mean, that's what we've been doing. We've been talking to anyone and everyone that we can about what we think makes sense, what's consistent with what we told the voters we were going to do. I mean, we didn't tell the voters we're going to repeal Obamacare, but replace it with something that looks like Obamacare, just with a different title and a few changes here and there. We told them we were going to repeal it. That's what we need to do. And we need to, I think, always remind voters what Americans were told when this thing passed. Like your plan, keep your plan, like your doctor, because you got all these concern out there from some people, but remind them how bad it is and what we were told. Like your plan, keep your plan, like your doctor, keep your doctor. Premiums are going to decline, we were told. We were told premiums will decline on average $2,500. We were told deductibles will go down. We were told the website was going to work. Remember that when they enrolled this thing? We were told the website was actually secure. We were told that emergency room visits would decline, and we were also told that these co-ops that they formed, 23 of them with your tax dollars, 23 of them they formed, we were told they were going to work wonderful. 18 of them have already went bankrupt in just 2 years. So everything we're told about this law turned out to be false. Why would we want to keep parts of it? Let's repeal it and replace it with market-centered, patient-centered health care.
I am going to turn this over to my co-host, Sharon Engel. She's been listening to this interview, and I know she's got a few questions she wants to ask Representative Sharon. Take it away.
Thank you so much, and thank you, Representative Jordan, for being on our show. This is really indeed a pleasure to talk to someone who agrees with Anna and I that repeal means repeal, not replace, not repair, not rework, but actually get rid of the thing. Tell us how the states should respond to this, because I'm in one of those states that early on accepted Obamacare and all of the things that go with it. And now we're knee-deep in debt over Medicaid expansion and the things that went along with Obamacare. How are the states supposed to respond? Because it seems like when you repeal it, does some of this still stay in place in our state, or will all of it be repealed?
Well, I do think, Sharon, and good to talk to you as well, I do think that you got to give some off-ramp time. What our legislation says is 2 years. It shouldn't take 4, 5, 6 years like some are talking about. It should take a couple years so that you can send a message to the market. There's a chance for the insurance industry to appropriately adapt and develop new products that we think will be more affordable. So you do have to give an effective date that gives you some time to do off-ramp or wind down, whatever you want to call it. We're fine with that. We understand that. What we don't want is to say, we're going to have a 5-year wind down, and yet you actually get to keep most of the Medicaid expansion dollars. That's what concerns us. Now, again, we haven't seen the leadership plan, so it'd be nice if we could see it. Then we could have, I think, a more enlightened conversation. We're going on what was in the so-called leaked version.
Now, as I understand it, Dr. Tom Price, once he was confirmed, he has the plan. Have you seen that yet?
No, there's no official bill been introduced. There's no official text. All we get is what the press has reported about a week and a half ago what was in the so-called leaked version of the legislation, and there's some stories out now that say, oh, that's changing. But remember, there were several stories yesterday where Senator Paul went to see the plan. It was supposedly kept in a room in the Energy and Commerce Committee. One of the rooms was part of the committee, and they wouldn't show it to him. Even brought a copier along to make copies so that we could take copies and people could see. But that was not available. So it'd be nice if we could see it.
Now, when you talk about Obamacare and Medicaid expansion, I was under the understanding that those were two separate things, that Obamacare was basically the website and the access to get Obamacare. The Medicaid expansion was just a companion piece, but nevertheless separate, that allowed those who couldn't afford insurance to be insured. So talk to me a little bit about it.
Yeah, it's both. I mean, it's both. It's all part of the, Medicaid expansion was part of Obamacare. They're actually counted in the overall number. The big problem with Obamacare is all the regulations that drove up the cost of insurance, all the taxes that drove up the cost of insurance. That's the big problem. And those are what really has to go if you're ever going to bring down costs and get back to an affordable insurance market. I know of folks in the individual market right now who aren't getting insurance through their employer, so in the individual market, healthy young adults who are paying $500 a month for a $6,000 deductible plan. I mean, these are 20-some-year-old healthy people. It wasn't too long ago where that kind of policy was $100 a month. Now it's $500 a month. So we got to get back to affordable insurance that's actually private sector associated versus all the government regs, all the government mandates that are driving up the cost for everybody.
So when we're speaking of Medicaid expansion, that would take another bill to repeal the Medicaid expansion and ask the states to pay back that federal money. Is that correct?
Well, no one's talking about having the states pay back. What's talking about is phasing it out. It may or may not be in separate legislation. That's still being debated. So we're going to know a lot more over the next 3 weeks as this debate unfolds, and we actually get real legislation that we can work from in front of us.
Seems like that's a pretty simple bill. It's a one sentence repeal Obamacare. It's going to be more complicated than that.
Or just do what we put on the President Obama's desk, the repeal legislation we did that every single Republican in the House and Senate voted for just 15 months ago. Why not do that? We think that makes a lot of sense, too. So I got to run, ladies. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much for being our guest here on Conservative Commando's radio show. Tell us how our listeners can follow you before you sign off.
Well, we can go to our website, Jim Jordan, and or call our office at any time, and we'd be happy to visit with them about this legislative issue or any other. Take care. Sorry, I got to run.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Congressman Jim Jordan, for being our guest here on Conservative Commando's radio show. Well, Anna, that was enlightening.
Oh, I am so proud of Representative Jim Jordan and that Freedom Caucus. Listeners, we need to back this guy up. He's the first one I've heard talk about Obamacare that I nodded my head and said, yes, that's what we the people are asking for. So he gets it. We've got to give him what he needs out here in the streets in order to put pressure on those that would be perhaps by Republican leadership looking to keep certain parts of the old mandate. No. We the people actually stood up against that. We need to out here in the streets say, we want Jim Jordan's plan. We want the Freedom Caucus plan. We want repeal. We want whatever we put on Obama's desk to be put on Trump's desk immediately. And then we want market-based, patient-centered, free market health care, which, as far as I'm concerned, means no government mandate at all. But if Jim Jordan thinks there needs to be some kind of legislation that says free market, market-based, patient-centered, well then, okay, I could go with those words. What do you think, Sharon?
Well, I thought it was extremely interesting what Congressman Jordan said about the bills that every Republican signed on and voted for that was taken to President Obama's desk saying repeal Obamacare. He said, what's wrong with that bill? Nothing's wrong with that bill. Why hasn't it been presented already to President Trump? Why are we waiting on Congressman Tom Price? Why are we waiting for that? It seems like that's a slam dunk to me. And then if they want to do something different with health care, such as the things that we discussed at the beginning of our show, going across state lines, those kinds of things, that's a separate issue. But why haven't they just presented that bill? It's already written. It's already been signed on. It seems like a slam dunk to me, too, Anna.
Well, the way I've put it is pretty much plain language. You know, they saw Trump coming. They knew he was elected in November. I don't understand why the Republican leadership in both the House and the Senate didn't have this bill ready for his desk on January 20th, because it had already been presented to a president before and it was vetoed. So I don't see why that legislation hasn't been accomplished. That's where I am.
Yeah, and it sounds like it is ready. It's just, again, a lack of willingness to do what needs to be done. And who would bring that to a vote, again, would be the leadership there, right? So, you know, we're looking at leadership that's trying to pass the buck on us one more time here. It's frustrating, to say the least. And I know that when we talked with Ken Blackwell with the transition team, he was frustrated as well. And that became his bottom line as well, was that we have leaders in the Congress that don't have the courage to do what needs to be done now that they have the way to do it. Now that they have a president that's willing to sign this, before they kind of knew this thing was going to go down, they could sign it without having to take any consequences for that, and so they just signed on. But now that the rubber is really meeting the road, they seem to have retracted, and that was what Ken Blackwell was saying to me. Where's the courage? Where's the willingness now that they have the mandate to do what they need to do?
Well, I'm a woman of faith, Sharon, and I know that you are too. And while President Barack Obama was in the White House, it was not on the responsibility of the House and the Senate to pass those laws and to enact those laws through the president, because the president wasn't batting for the same team. As of January 20th of 2017, this is the responsibility. Obamacare, still being the law of the land, is a responsibility borne by every Republican in the House and in the Senate, because time is going by. And my point with regard to Obamacare, every bit of it offends me. But what offends me the most is all of the death, the state-sponsored death in it. Death to babies and death to the elderly, death to the impaired or the handicapped. All of that is in the Obamacare bill. And morally, that now rests on our shoulders. So listeners, remind your representatives, this is on their watch now, since January 20th of 2017. I am being coached by John Forsyth Jr., thank God for him, that we have to wrap up this show. So I am going to quickly go through the thank yous. First of all, thank you, Sharon, because I have the best 2 hours of my week on Fabulous Fridays when you and I co-host together. So thank you so much for making the time to be a co-host on Conservative Commandos. We had a guest at 3:35, Hans von Spakovsky, who had this terrific article that said, "Get real, Democrats. There's no good reason for Jeff Sessions to resign." I love that article. You can follow him at heritage.org. We thank him for his time today. We thank Diana Waterman from Maryland GOP. You can follow the Republicans in Maryland at mdgop.org. And then we had Representative Jim Jordan, who obviously is at, I think it's jimjordan.house.gov. And certainly that link is already up at our Facebook page at Conservative Commandos Radio. And with that, Sharon, what are your parting comments? Because we are out of time.
We surely are. Well, it's a new day in America, and we're glad of it. And, I guess I want to paraphrase Benjamin Franklin. We now have an opportunity to keep our republic if we can. So with that, I'm so glad to be here with you on Conservative Commando's radio show every fabulous Friday. And, of course, God bless you, Anna Little. God bless our listeners, and God bless America.
And with that, we are out of time. We got to run. We got to go. Take care. God bless. And we'll see you next week on the radio.
1360 AM. WNJC. Washington Township, Philadelphia.
Hi, I'm Kevin Wade. Conservative Commandos is happy to welcome Liberty HealthShare as a sponsor. Liberty HealthShare is a community of health-conscious Americans who practice long-standing Christian principles in sharing health care costs. Liberty HealthShare exists for everyone who purchases health care for themselves or their family, or who wants to control their own health care. I run a small business, and we were caught in the confusion of Washington's ever-changing health insurance requirements. We found a common-sense solution in Liberty HealthShare. Liberty HealthShare is not insurance. It simply unites like-minded Americans to share medical costs together. Join a community of health-conscious Americans who practice long-standing Christian principles in sharing health care costs. That's Liberty HealthShare. To find out how you can easily make the change, call Liberty HealthShare today at 855-585-4237. That's 855-585-4237, or visit their website at libertyhealthshare.org. Hi, I'm Kevin Wade. Conservative Commandos is happy to welcome Liberty HealthShare as a sponsor. Liberty HealthShare is a community of health-conscious Americans who practice long-standing Christian principles in sharing health care costs. Liberty HealthShare exists for everyone who purchases health care for themselves or their family, or who wants to control their own health care. I run a small business, and we were caught in the confusion of Washington's ever-changing health insurance requirements. We found a common-sense solution.